When I decided to begin this documentary, it was going to be a short documentary that could shed light on Norwegian history and archaeology. However, the more I researched into the subject, the more sidetracked I got. What began as a simple explanation to the Norwegian helleristninger, Petroglyphs, took me into the world of geology and human DNA research. Let me explain. As I researched more and more into the Norwegian helleristninger, Petroglyphs, the more confused I got. As at the time many of the petroglyphs was made when the whole of Norway were under the last ice age. The oldest petroglyphs, helleristninger, in Norway is dated to from about 11,000 BC and is found both in the way north of Norway called Alta and in the middle land of Norway in Telemark, both which were covered in ice at the time. Younger settlements are found the longer south you get. However, they too date from about 7,000 BC to about 500 BC. One of the oldest were recently discovered in Alta and depicts a 3-meter long ship. Now usually I wouldn't question this, as it's located on the today's shoreline. There is also usual depictions of ships, sleds, and even tools to walk on snow with, even also different types of land animals and hunting and gatherer stuff like bows and arrows, and men, of course. Anyway, after checking up with the geological data at the time, it seems very puzzling, as at the time in history you could technically have walked from Norway to America. So basically what I'm saying is that the petroglyph was made in an area about 2,000 kilometers from the nearest shoreline. That's about 31 hours driving distance and 459 hours of walking distance, which is about 435 days. Now, that's one reason I got perplexed about this. And it's actually also supposedly the oldest depiction of a boat in history in rock art. Now, what was it doing in the middle of the icy wasteland? So, I began researching both petroglyphs. We have a lot of them here in Norway, and it seems like many of them seems to be dated between 7,000 BC up to the Viking Age. Actually, it was even more puzzling considering many of them actually look like the Viking ships that has been dug up. Recently, there was also been found a supposed Viking ship in Sarpsborg that they thought was from the Viking Age. However, it seems to be from earlier times, from about 600 AD. It's the first excavation of a Viking ship in Norway since about the turn of the century, 1900s. So this made me even more fascinated. So I began searching scientific articles online and found out most of the petroglyphs in the world was dated to from about 7,000 BC, with very few exceptions. None, however, connected to a boat. The supposedly oldest rock art found was found in Africa, in a cave called Bloombo's Cave, which was dated to about 77,000 years old. It's not really attached to the cave. in itself as much as it was a pebble they found while excavating the cave. Then after that I found that the second oldest was found in Australia, dated to be about 50,000 BC. Then there was Iran to about 40,800 BC. The earliest finding of rock art in Europe is about 30,000 BC, which is a bit older than the oldest one found in Nigeria, Africa. Now, the vast distance between these findings are astonishing and confusing at the same time, as some of the rock carvings found in some of the countries, like for instance the oldest petroglyph in the world depicting a dying star, found in India, dated to be about 4,500 BC, was so very similar to the ones we found in my backyard, basically in Norway. It even depicts reindeer. Well, that's what I think it looks like anyway. So the more I dug around in this topic, the more questions came up to mind. Rock carvings and basic tools confirms the existence of creative, intelligent mind. And that led me down the road to DNA sequencing. Let's just say that what becomes a simple explanation between the Fossa Hembanka culture and Viking culture led me down the road to even more questions. Also considering the native Sami people of Scandinavia and the Scandinavian DNA mapping, which I'm sure I will get more answers about in future research. Now, the thing is that if things were depicted on rock in the way north of Norway, in the middle of the Ice Age, there is basically no doubt in my mind that there are historical treasures to be found in the North Atlantic under the sea. So my research continues. And maybe after a while I will make a up-following documentary or slight description later on, which can cover more of what I found out in further research. Who knows? This was just, I guess, a way for me to ask when it comes to the holes in history. I think there's too many holes to be basically sure about anything, really. And from what I found out in this research, it seems to be very likely that we don't have the whole picture. So thank you for listening, and maybe we'll meet again.